Hey, everybody. Hey, it is, well, we haven't talked at all since the turn of the year 2025. So happy new year, if it's still okay to say that. Um, it's Wednesday night. I'm excited. I have been gone for a while posting videos, but I have been out of town for a minute. I have a lot of family in South Africa. So I flew to South Africa. I've been there for a few weeks and everybody got sick. So that's been kind of the ongoing story in amongst the great parts of the trip. Went A friend, or actually a family member, uh, got me onto a really fun, nice golf course that I would never have paid to play on otherwise because it's super expensive. Very, very cool. Uh, had some awesome experiences in the country, which I always do there. But this time, through all the great stuff that was happening, my wife got sick, I got sick, and our little one got sick too. So, still working through that. Kind of tough, but long plane rides and being sick on plane rides that are 14, 15 hours long, not the best. But uh kids, all things considered, it was a great trip and glad to be back and glad to enjoy 2025 with everybody. And so it's going to be a fun year. We're already almost a whole month into the year, which is kind of wild to think about. So that's 1/12 of the year. So if you have kept all your Christmas lights and Christmas decorations up, you're 1 month closer to just leaving them up. Why not? Just leave them up. Once you get past May and June, just kind of let it ride, and then you're the first person that has decorations up. So that's not how I think about it in real life. But hey, if it does happen for you, by all means, take my advice. Keep them up. Um, but excited about the year and excited about the real estate world, and just because it's just what I breathe, right? I think about this all the time. While I'm gone, I'm thinking about real estate. While I'm here, I'm thinking about real estate. And then I think about the area here: Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, through Williamsburg. That's what I think about a lot. I drive around. I breathe this stuff. And so I love to share the things I think about with you. Any knowledge that I have, new knowledge that comes to light, as you live in a certain area. Even after 40 years, you start learning even newer things. I want to bring that stuff, and even new stuff that is coming to the area. I want to bring that up to you too, so to help you make some decisions about if you want to move here, if you don't want to move here, where to move if you are coming, that kind of stuff. So loved all that kind of stuff. We can talk about that as we go. But tonight, you saw the topic on the video, which was, is the spring market already here? And I've got some people asking questions about that, which kind of spurred on the topic. And I do think that there's a lot of kind of people, as people want to buy in the springtime, or it is for 2025, they're trying to measure what they're doing in relation to what other people are doing. What is my timeline, my goals for the year? Are they similar to other people, especially the timeline? Because if someone's like, hey, I want to buy in January, they decide in January that they want to buy, well, how does that change or affect how to plan for the rest of the year in terms of when to start looking, for example? Even if you're listing a house, same thing. When do I want to list a house, to plan to find the right amount of people, but also to time it so that I can then buy right after that? That whole timing, that it's like a puzzle. It's like that timeline is important to kind of hit relatively close to perfect if you can, and if not, what are the best other alternatives, as opposed to kind of lining all those buys and sells up in a row, because sometimes it's not possible, right? But point is that people are at about this stage, in the January stage, they're they're ready to start making those timing decisions, and they're really waiting to see, like, what's the rest of the market doing. And people that are buying are often right now looking at houses and seeing, okay, what's coming on the market, and it's getting kind of frustrating because it's the end of January and you're not really seeing the types of houses that you want to see that hit the market. Because then as you see things in January, it gives you more encouragement or anticipation for what will happen in February and March and so on. And I'd say almost always you'll find that January, there's a bump in the first part of the year, of the month, because it's those people that weren't looking until after the holidays, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm ready to go. And then it's kind of this holding pattern for a while. And then when that holding pattern changes to increase amount of listings, increase amount of activity, it changes a little bit every year. Sometimes it's earlier in the year, January into February. Sometimes it's not until March, April. I think a couple of years ago, we really didn't hit anything hard until like March or April. And I think that's probably because that's right when the interest rates started going up. People were very cautious about selling, and you saw a pullback on the amount of listing. Well, there wasn't really a huge amount of listings to begin with, but even more so a pullback considering relative to before that because of the interest rates and people not wanting to sell. So right now I'm not seeing too many houses at the market. What does that mean for demand? Well, right now there are people that are waiting. They're kind of been waiting for a while, but it's not as much of a flurry either. But here's what I found. As you go into January, into February, in the last couple of years, especially because 2020, 2021, even into 2022, that was a different time because people were making decisions to, hey, Katie, how are you? Oh, good to see you too. Thank you very much. Hi, good to talk to you. Hey, looking forward to talking more in the future. But thanks for the shout outs, guys. And if you have any questions, you want to throw anything on in the chat, feel free. And love to know where everybody's watching from, like states, countries, whatever. But anyway, so the January, February time period, that's the initial kind of measuring stick to see how the rest of the year is going to go, right? But in 2020, 2021, and 2022, the people that were making decisions to buy were doing it a little bit different than a normal year. I say different, a lot different, because the interest rates were so low. Obviously the world had just changed, and just the demand shot straight up. So people that were buying in January, it didn't make as much of a difference. January, February, March, people were just buying houses, and they were doing it. You'd put a house in the market, and it was going to go. Well, now it's a little bit different. Now what I'm finding is that as we're into January, February, people that are wanting to buy will want to buy. What the difference now is that people that are wanting to buy, let's just say, for example, 2025, which I cannot believe I'm still saying that number, 2025, the people that are doing that in January, they don't necessarily have to move in January, right? Usually people, well, I mean, obviously everybody's different, but unless there's a job transfer, you're getting stationed, something that forces a specific window, a lot of times people are trying to time it based on work or even really school, right? So you got April, May, June, March, April, May, June sometimes, but mainly April, May, June, and even into July. So people aren't really going to really want to put the pedal to the metal early unless they really feel compelled to find the right, like the specific house that they see is the one that they absolutely want. So they won't go after that house unless it's like it's the house, right? Well, the reason I say all that is because a lot of the houses that you'll see in January, especially coming a carryover from December and November, those houses that have been sitting for a while, they're not the cream of the crop houses. They've been sitting for a while. They might have, they might not be able to show as well. There's just less in demand houses relative to April, May, right? So you'll see a lot of houses that just kind of feel stale in January. And you'll keep waiting for new ones to hit, and some will hit, just won't be as many as you might hope for as you go into that first excitement, that first exciting window of looking, right? Because you're kind of technically able to buy, timing wise, you could buy, but it's like I just don't see anything. So that can be frustrating because you want to get your juices flowing, right? And you just don't see it. So right now, this is kind of common for January. And what's frustrating, if you take all that and say, okay, well, it's not really as busy of a market house listing wise. It's not the season for that. But what you'll find is that if you do find a house that you want, like you're like in your mind, you're like, hey, I am buying in the time of year that is most ideal for me because I'm not buying in the midst of all the crowds. I don't want to get into a bidding war, right? It's a very common thing to not want to get involved in a bidding war. And that's a valid concern. I guess that's the good way of saying it. It's a valid concern. And And there are a lot of houses that you won't need to do that with, meaning offer over asking price because there are multiple offers, whether it's 2 or 7 or whatever. That's, I think it's not a bad thing to avoid, trying to avoid that. What's frustrating, I say not for me, but as far as a person buying, is that you think you're doing all the right things. You think you're kind of outsmarting the market, right? You're buying at a time period that not as many people are looking. Like you think you're doing the things that are appropriate to get the best deal. Well, theoretically speaking, that's true. The problem is that if someone really wants the absolute best house in a market, and I mean in a market, city, neighborhood, whatever, in a specific area, for example, if you're looking for that absolute best house, just because it's in a time of the year that's not ideal, that's still most likely the very best house for that area at that time. So what happens is, unless there are literally there's no one looking in that area at all, which if that's true, then it might not be the best area that you might look for, or might not be the best ideal spot. My point is that there are usually people that are looking in areas across the city, period, whether it be January, July, April, whatever, right? So I think it's important to know that when you're looking for a house, getting the deal might not necessarily mean you're not getting a deal on the premium house. You might be getting a deal on a distressed or just a house that's been sitting for a while. Does that make sense? So when you go into a house that's, it just hits the market and it's pristine, it's perfect. Maybe they're listing their house and they have to list it in January or February, and it's just that time of year that they have to list. But it's still the best house in the market for them. And now it doesn't mean that they're going to maybe get the same exact price as maybe April or May. They might, but it's going to be still pretty strong. So when you see it like the primo house on the market, you're like, well, I want to offer under. Like if maybe if the house is 550, well, I want to offer 530. Well, you might get blown out of the water. Then you're like, well, why? It's January. It's because just because you're in the off season does not mean that everybody goes away. There just are less people, right? And so with less people and less houses, even the best houses will still get a lot of traffic, right? Make sense? So I just would say a word of caution to make sure you continue to keep in your mind that there are competitive offer strategies that are at play that you still may have to use, even because potentially if it's the exact house that everybody else wants. And that's where it gets into researching the areas, the types of houses that might attract the most people. Talk to your real estate agent about that, because that's going to be something that they can advise about. Say, okay, how strong do you have to make an offer considering the type of area and type of house that you want? And you can prepare for that, budget for that, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I say right now we're kind of in a holding pattern, but the market isn't stopped. It's still flowing, and there are more new houses hitting the market every day. And of those, you're still going to get a cream of the crop, and those are going to get the most action. Excuse me, just 1 second. So I got some tea there. Rooibos tea. So South Africans love rooibos tea, Rooibos. And I've started to love rooibos tea. You can drink it cold. You can drink it warm. I like it hot, obviously hot with some honey. It's great. Oh, and by the way, so you see Knysna Golf Club. That's actually not where I played. Played at a place called Pazula Golf Club. You can look it up if you want to. It's really nice. And so yeah, that's just as an example. I wanted to just tell you more about what I was doing while I was gone for just at least a day. Oh, Christy. Hey, Christy. Hi from Houston. Very fun. Very fun. I've never been to Houston. I have heard a lot of stuff about it. Hope you like. Are you planning to move to the area from Houston? And if not, hope you like Houston. Bill. Hey, Bill. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. And yeah, glad I got to play some too. I haven't played golf too much in the last almost year with the new baby. So I was happy to be able to play a little bit. Didn't play too badly for as difficult of course as it was. So anyway, so do you understand what I'm saying? Always keep in mind that you may not be in the primo part of the year for the market, but there's always potentially a mini market for each individual house. Okay. So now, that being said, let's talk about some current things happening that it might affect if you want to buy right now or not, or how to structure how to buy. So the first thing is we've got, well, the main thing right now is mortgages. So like, all right, boring, Sam, mortgages. Well, this is an important thing because it can affect which house you pick. We're going to talk about some news stories. One primary one is, you can see this, the Feds met today, and again, not to get into the weeds of that and bore everybody to tears with news information, especially if it's like, hey, Sam, let's talk about houses. I get it. The main thing this matter is helpful to know is that this is Yahoo Finance. Mortgage refinance rates today, rates will probably stay high for a while. Of course, this is an opinion piece. The idea, though, is that the Federal Reserve is not expected to drop their interest rates. Hi, John from Minneapolis. Hey, good to see you. They're not expected to drop their rates, which then means that the mortgage rates will most likely follow suit. Now, there are times where mortgage rates were actually going up or staying higher as Fed rates were dropping. So it's not an equal correlation, because there are other factors involved in mortgage rates than just the Federal Reserve rate. But when you when you see that they're not going to drop their rates, that can often mean that the mortgage companies and lending institutions and even fairly government-backed loans might stay higher in interest rates. So the one thing I want to mention to you is it's about a narrative conversation here. So Yahoo News says rates will probably stay high for a while. Now, and when I read that, it's funny how the mind works. When I read that, the first thing I thought of was, oh man, rates are going to stay high for a while. What does that mean, a while? Well, I'm just throwing a bunch of random words. Doesn't really help much until I thought about it some more. Okay, rates will probably stay high for a while. Well, what does high mean? So looking at there, it says 30-year fixed mortgage rates decreased by 2 basis points, according to Zillow, 6.65%. Okay, well, that's not too bad. I'm not defending the idea of 6.5% interest rates being low, but that's not new, right? And it's not like when you see here, I read the word high, I think, oh, maybe they'll go high. We're going to stay high. Okay, maybe they're going to go higher. Well, 6.5, if I look at the last several years, or even, I guess, even closer, several months, I'm going to show you something about how rates have changed over time. Okay, well, this is in the last 5 years, 6 years now. Good grief. 2019 was 6 years ago. So here's 2019, January 17th, January. Okay, we're at 4%, 3%, 3%. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Hope you bought a house in that time. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so once we got past the middle of September 2022, so 2.5 years ago, over 6%. Well, we've been ranging in these 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, bounced up to 7.75 last year, 7, 7, 6, 6, 6.5, down to 6, but back up to 6, 6.75, up to 7, and back down. This is not a drastic difference. Oops, what did I do? All right. Well, I guess I lost my. Well, okay. Point is, I lost it. There we go. That's better. We're still in a range here, and it's been a range for 2-3 years. So when I see on on Yahoo Finance that rates will probably stay high for a while, well, the expectation there is that, were they really high to begin with? I guess high in relation to 2021, 2020, but in relation to the last 2 or 3 years, they have not been that high. So I guess my point is that be careful when you read the news, because you might find that the specific words that you read and what you expect to the pictures you have in your head might actually be incorrect or a bad influence on decisions you might want to make. Because that might make you think, well, if you're going to buy, say, my personal opinion, let me start with my personal opinion for if you should buy based on the rates right now. There's a good chance that the rates could drop and you may have bought too high in rates. The reality is you can always refinance. But even then, it costs money to refinance. So I never tell someone just, hey, just assume you can just refinance, because it costs money. It better be worth it, right? But what you can do is, if you get the right house, let's say that you're not in the primo house that you're talking about, but maybe you, um, oh, I don't know, like you find a house that's been on the market for 4 weeks when you maybe can get a price adjustment, or you can ask for, maybe the lender will allow you to do a buy down. The seller will pay for a buy down. Well, that's pretty important, because then maybe you can get that 6.75, 6.5 down to 6.25, 6.6%. Maybe I'm throwing out stuff that might not be possible based on your situation. I'm just saying getting those buy downs can be very, very helpful based on your situation. And so that might be even better than getting like closing, like people want to get their closing costs paid, which is nice. But if you're going to stay in your house for 20 years or 30 years, and you may not refinance, right? If you get a buy down, you're going to possibly save thousands and thousands more than you would have saved if you had just gotten closing costs paid for. So that's why I would say, I would consider those buy downs if you're going to be looking to buy soon. Now, you might talk to a lender and they'll say, "Oh, they're going to drop. Rates are going to drop." They could be right. The rates might drop, and then in that case, my advice just then was not helpful, because you could have just paid to buy it down, would have saved the money. You could have just gotten your closing costs paid for and not had to buy your rate down now. A lot of things could change, but I think that a lot of people have been wrong over the last 2 or 3 years. Look at this chart here. A lot of people have been wrong over the last 2 or 3 years as far as when rates would drop back down again, because the rates had been so low for so long. People thought, oh, well, they'll just go back to 5, go back to 4, go back to 3. Show me when that's going to happen. I would be surprised if it did. So it's not, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to slurp, but the tea, man. But it's not like I don't think that it's impossible for rates to go down to 3-4%. But man, I would be surprised what would need to happen for that to take place. You know what I mean? I think they were suppressed for too long for a while. So I think we could be in the 6s for a while. I think, again, lenders that I trust are saying sometimes in the 5s. But man, I don't want to assume that, and let's say you get a house at 6.5%. What will you need to do? What rate will you have to get it low enough to make it worth refinancing? You need at least 1% drop. You're kind of threading the needle at some point. Like, okay, is it going to happen? And then at that point, when's it going to happen? So all I have to say is, when that Yahoo News or other news stories that, sorry, I'm reading the comments. I'll throw some up there in a second. But when I see these talks about rates and kind of that, it's not fear mongering. That's I think a common term now. It's just news that makes people alarmed and think, okay, I need to do something quickly, or gosh, the rates are high. I would not say that two things. I'm not convinced that they're considered high. I'm also not convinced they're going to drop really low either. And so this might be the norm for a while, but this is not like crazy. I think 6s is not crazy at all, personally. Welcome, folks. I'm a VA Tidewater native. Oh, that's cool. Yes, we knew that. I knew that, right? Yeah. Thanks for your support, by the way. Hi from Hilltop. Love the area. Oh, great. I like Hilltop too. That's except the jet noise, but the service roads are getting fixed. Thank goodness. There's still some, but man, coming from east to west on Laskin Road, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you look on Laskin Road where Hilltop is, work up where Whole Foods is, and the road in front of Whole Foods is getting reconfigured. And there used to be what were called service roads that were, if you're on a main road, imagine to the left or to the right of you a shoulder that is another road, another one-way street, or I guess two-way, that is like a subset or a separate full-blown 2-lane road between stores and houses or whatever, and the main road. It's like a second section of road, and you have to cut in to get to the storefronts. You have to cut across those roads. It's the worst. But they just fixed those. They turned them into lanes, just regular lanes on part of Laskin Road. They're still working on that, but that's a huge, big deal. I've done videos about that being the case. That project, it's taken some time, but it's very worth it. Good grief, it's super annoying. Anyway, Christy, I lived in Virginia Beach when my dad was stationed at Little Creek. Went to Kempsville High School. I'd love to move back. Beautiful area. Oh, great. That's awesome. Yeah, Kempsville. Love Kempsville. Big fan of Kempsville. I've heard mortgage rates have been artificially low for decades. I think they are near historical averages now. Yes, I agree with you. I think 6-7 is not crazy at all. I think 3 or 4% was too low. I mean, I'd like to see it again. I'm a man of the people and also a man of myself, I guess. I'd love to see a rate that low again. But now that the rates would be that low again, I think people would be wizened to it, and I think the market would go crazy. So I don't know. I think the reaction to that low rate was based on a different market condition that made people not pay attention to it, if that makes sense. So I think we would need something like that to happen again for us to really be able to take advantage of that rate as well as I think we want to, as we would have wanted to 2021 version of us would have wanted to, because you never know when things are going to change, and it's hard because you don't have any historical context for the future, right? So anyway, X, love the channel. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. So I hope that made sense to you. So if you're planning to move here and you were trying to make a decision about if you want to buy, I would not base it off of interest rates dropping. I would not wait for that to happen. Now, I also wouldn't say do it, buy the house, throw caution to the wind. If it makes sense for you, do it. If it doesn't make sense, don't do it, and don't do it just because of the rate number. That's always been my thing. I would just base your budget off of what's realistic. And I wouldn't base your budget off of, if I can refinance at 5.5%, I'll be able to afford it better. Well, I wouldn't go after that house then. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do that because things change quickly, or sometimes things don't change fast enough for the ideal world to take place, you know? So anyway, moving on past that. So that's the news there. So the main thing I wanted to mention there is just be careful about how much you project in the future about what you think is going to happen. So that leads me to what's happening in the market right now that I think is worth mentioning or worth noting, and how I think it's going to affect the next few months. So I'm going to go into the current stats for the local real estate market. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. So here is the median sales price for Virginia Beach in 2024 in December, so Christmas time, $428,500. Which every year you see at the last couple of months, a couple of those months they drop, like boom. September, there's a bump and then it's back down again. We talked about this. I talk about it all the time. There's always a bump in the fall, goes back down again. The median sales price, I mean, shocker. Look, it's like the same over and over again. Now it's been rising a lot. And I think that really the last few years, you've seen that the top of the last year is the bottom of the year ahead as far as median sales price goes. I think we're getting closer to that kind of slowing down. But here's the problem I'm seeing. So you got that, but you also have month's supply of inventory, right? Well, number one, let's go to new listings. The amount of new listings in December last year compared to December this year was about the same. And this chart looks about the same. 188 last year, 2023. This year, 197, right? So it says change almost 5%, but it's nine more houses. I mean, what are we even talking about? Yeah, it's not that much of a difference. So, but then you go to month supply of inventory, and then you look and you say, okay, 1.5 months. Remember, a normal month or a healthy market, you're talking 4.5, 5 months. You know, that range, maybe even 3.5, possibly. But as you go into the 2 and the 1, you got low supply. We're still in that range, low supply. And what's even more interesting is that month supply of inventory now is 1.5 months. Last year in 2012, in January 2023, month supply was 1.8. So that's actually a little bit lower in the same month. Now again, month supply, let's see, month supply of inventory is the number of months it would take to sell through the available inventory at the current sales rate. So it would not take very long is what the idea here is. And there aren't enough houses for the demand. Now, again, it's not like a flurry, but again, that's why those houses that you really like are going really fast and they're selling over asking prices, because of this concept. There aren't enough houses to go around. So what's going to happen? Personally, I think unless we see some significant event or something that will drastically affect the next few months financially, I think we're going to be in a similar scenario as last year, maybe a little bit more toned down, because if people are anticipating rates to drop and they don't, and people just kind of sit on the sidelines, that might drop or keep demand down. There just aren't enough houses in the market. So I'm envisioning prices to still continue to rise, even as rates stay in the sixes. So should you wait to buy in case something happens? I would not suggest waiting or acting now based on things that have not happened yet. That's my general take. Now, there are degrees of confidence, degrees of certainty of things that could happen. But as a general rule, if you're waiting for a crash, I wouldn't do it. If you're waiting if you're buying because you are afraid for the prices to go up, I wouldn't do it out of fear either, right? Got to do it based on what makes sense for you and your family, or just you, or whatever scenario you've got there with your family situation. So I would do your work on your personal budget more than I work on the greater news that you see around the country. And that's another thing too, is local news and national news, two big differences. You'll hear a lot of people talk about some people say, oh, sales are down in general in the nation. All right, well, locally, that doesn't mean you can offer less on a house that 5 other people want because it's in the right school district in the right street that people want. You know what I mean? So that's why just be aware of the fact that there just aren't enough houses to supply demand to supply demand. So you can go in looking at houses with that in mind, but at the same time, know that those houses, they're not all going to go off the market. That's just like that. But you have to treat each house as if it does, in case it does, if it's the house that you want, especially if you've been waiting for a while. That's the time where you're like, well, if I find the right house, I'll go get it. Well, you need to make sure you go get it. You know what I mean? Make sure, like, you have to be aggressive to go get it. Hate dealing with financing. I'd rather grate my eyes on cheese grate. Oh goodness, that's a downer. That's a bummer. Thanks Federal Reserve for totally. I mean, a lot of printing happened in the last few years. Seen some YouTube videos. Okay. Predicting a housing crash similar to 2009 due to high prices, interest rates, and incomes not high enough to make the monthly payments. Agree. So I think it's reasonable to think that could happen. The reason that I don't know if it would be a crash is because people that are buying are very well qualified. The reason that 2009 happened is because the people that were buying weren't qualified. So there were too many restrictions taken off of loans for people that were buying to just get whatever that the lender chose to give them. This is not a market that is the same at all. So it would require something else to make the supply shoot up and for that equilibrium to be off. I'm not saying a crash can't happen. I just wouldn't call it a crash. Because again, it's like people have tried to predict a crash for the last 10 years. It hasn't happened. Or last even 5 years. Back in like 2021, like these prices are going up too fast. Crash is going to happen. 22, boom. 23, boom. 24, boom. Because there are other factors involved, and it's not to say that things just keep going up. I just think that there are factors involved that are keeping the house prices high. And the reality is, again, it's like onions are still $7 or whatever they are now, but everything's expensive. So just because prices are high doesn't mean the prices are going to fall necessarily either. And I've been thinking about this just even personally. Like I look for investment properties, right? Even right now, looking at a house right now, and I was nervous about going after it because I'm like, well, man, what if prices drop and the rates go higher or whatever? The reality is the scarcity is real. The rates aren't that low, aren't that high to begin with. And because of the scarcity, something significant would have to happen for the prices to drop notably enough to not go after it. Sure enough, went after it and got it. So I'm talking to myself. I am treating the market as if a crash is not happening. I am also treating it as if there could be a settling. And again, we've been talking about settling for the last 2 or 3 years. Even that hasn't happened significantly. It's happened more so in the last year relative, but even then it's like not drastically. So I'm still, oh, sorry. Great crash is coming. Okay. Things will quickly recover in less than a year. Um, if a crash happens, it will probably take a long time to recover. I disagree with that. I also disagree, kind of honestly, that the crash is coming. I could be wrong about that one. I just don't think that if a crash does happen, the recovery time is that quick. Just like 2009, we really didn't recover from the crash of 2009 for probably or '08 until 2014, 15, 16. I mean, it took years for those prices to recover. So I just don't see that right now based on the current climate personally. So, taking notes. Oh, thanks, Christy. Yeah, thank you very much. If you guys have any more questions, let me know. I'd love to answer anything for you now. That's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to mention, hey, be prepared for um, the mini market for every house. Go after the house that you want, but make sure that you don't miss it. Because if you're like waiting every 2 or 3 months for the right house and it comes up, you better make sure you get it. Because the national news might tell you that you don't have to do some specific things that you may have to do to get the house, that kind of a thing. And about mortgage rates, but also about the fact that, hey, just encourage you. It's January. If you're looking to buy and you're moving to the area, give yourself some time. If you can find a house right now, great. If not, it's okay. More houses are coming. I would just encourage you that more houses are coming. And again, as far as relocation is concerned, there's let me know where you're coming from, but I'd love to talk to you more, give you more advice, walk you through the idea of moving to the area, help you relocate, all that kind of stuff. There's my phone number, there's my email address, and then my website also. Um, excuse me. My website's there. A lot of same standalone stuff there. So feel free to ask me any questions. You can email me, call me, text me. If I don't answer right away, I'll answer as fast as I can. Please forgive me if I'm talking or with somebody. I try and respect the person in front of me as much as possible. And that's just my mindset there. John, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Wise man, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. There are many fixer-uppers in the Virginia Beach area where an investor could make money, maybe buying one for cash. If you're a fixer-upper to flip, that's hard. You know what I mean? So if you're buying like a 400 house, excuse me, buy a house that's worth 500, buy it for 350 and renovate it for 60. Those don't really exist. To a drastic degree, you kind of have to make your own deals there. If you see one that's been sitting for a long time, you may have to offer a lot lower and hope that they go for it. That's the reality of it is, but any market has that as an option. It's just right now, it's just not super common. If you buy to hold, hey, love multifamilies, duplexes, quadplexes. We just made an offer on one that we just got. Love those. If the market, if the money works, I think it's a go personally. And they do exist in the area, not necessarily always Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake are two of the big ones, especially Norfolk, and maybe even Portsmouth, Hampton, Newport News. You got some spots in there that can really work well, but yeah, just be aware that just because a house is sitting doesn't mean that it's sitting because someone's ready to sell it for cheaper. A lot of times houses have been sitting because sellers aren't ready to drop the price. And that's the biggest determination of a market moving is people setting prices that make sense for the people buying, right? And if it's sitting, it could be because they just haven't gotten the right offer yet, or it's just that they have been holding firm to something they might not be able to get. Okay, yeah, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Very, very welcome. Good talking to you. And looking forward to talking to you more. Long-term hold, but just looking to reduce the price somewhat. Yeah, that exists. That exists. Again, I personally experienced that just now. It does exist, just more so in Norfolk, I'd say, in Chesapeake, in parts, as opposed to Virginia Beach, or even Portsmouth, Suffolk, even. Yeah, most areas besides Virginia Beach. It's just a more in-demand city. If you've never lived here and looking to move here, I can tell you this is a great area. Yeah, love it. plenty of everything. I think we got more Walmarts than Arkansas. We do have a lot. Do we have a lot of Walmarts? I guess we do. We do. Yeah, we do. Theme parks galore. Yes. Malls that are active are mall pretty active if you like malls. I would say Lynn Haven is active. The rest of them are suffering, I'd say, to be kind. Greenbrier just went under foreclosure. Or it went up to auction, I think, this week. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Greenbrier Mall in Chesapeake. But anyway, so that's it for this evening. If you have any more questions, again, please reach out, email me, call me, text me, and I'd love to answer any questions, help you relocate to the area. That's what I do. I love it. I love helping people relocate. And yeah, if you have any further questions, you want to just talk through the process of relocating, let me know. And especially as we go and, especially even the next, like, I'd say, because there was a window of time where even kind of, the last couple of months where with the baby coming, it was kind of layered from the standpoint of what I could do like during certain parts of the year. So, if you do plan to move to the area, let me know like when you're moving, like give me the whole grid of your situation so I can kind of talk you through what's possible, what I can do and all that stuff. So yeah, if any questions, again, please reach out and I will look forward to talking to you on the next video. But that's it for this evening. I will be helping with my child soon and also be doing some late night research and data and emailing and all that stuff this evening. So thanks a lot for watching and I will see you on the next video next Wednesday.